Hi there, my name is Will and I'm going to show you how you can make cron jobs way easier using Kestra. If you had a script or a process that you wanted to run on a schedule, a cron job is a really good way to do that. You can do this on any Unix-based machine. In my case, I'm running macOS, but this works on Linux as well. In the past, I've used this to be able to run shell scripts or Python scripts maybe every hour, once a day, etc. And it's super useful. Now, to do that, all we can do is type in cron tab-e, and in here we can specify the cron expression, which will be how regularly it runs, as well as the command. If we just have a quick look in my directory. Now, inside of my directory, I have a file here called process.py. Now, this is just a simple Python file that's going to just open a file in our directory, write hello world to it and close it, just as an example of something where you might want a cron job to do it. Now I can easily add this to my cron tab with this simple command here. Now this command here is going to run it every single minute with this cron expression, and then it's going to write our file. So now if I save that with Vim, I can then allow that permission, and then we're going to be able to see that when I type cron tab-L that the cron is available now. Now if I just do a quick simple ls, we can see that there is no example.py, but when the time does hit 4:16, we'll be able to see that it's created the file. And just like that, we can see the file. I can simply just cat it, and we can see that it did in fact write hello world. This is really useful and really easy to set up, but it is not flawless. Now, for example, it's kind of difficult to be able to see what jobs you have, when they're going to run, but also if any of these jobs have errors, it's quite hard for you to find out that they've crashed. Now we can actually view some of the logs with the cron job by looking at the mail on our machine. And as you can see here, I had like a syntax error, but I don't get notified about this. I have to go and find out that this error is here. And if you don't know where to find it, that doesn't make it any easier either. And that's where Kestra comes in to allow you to run these cron jobs, but with that added user interface that allows you to see what's scheduled, when it's going to run, the outputs from that, as well as any error handling. So let's have a look at that. So to start with, when you first jump into Kestra, you'll get this wonderful dashboard that will tell you the success ratio of your workflows. So this makes it really easy to see whether your cron jobs are successful or not. Now I have an example workflow here called cron job. So let's have a look at that. Now here is my workflow. Now we define this inside a YAML, and it's quite straightforward. So here I'm using a Python commands task, which just allows us to run Python commands in a Python environment. Now by default, this will run in a Docker container to prevent any dependency issues. So you can have multiple different workflows that run different Python scripts, but they can have different dependencies. Quite useful if you've got a number of different jobs. And then I can simply use this schedule trigger here with a cron expression, just like we did in our terminal, to be able to tell this to run every single day. So here I can see that when I go to trigger, I can see that the next execution is going to be in exactly a few seconds. And I can also view the executions quite easily in here. So I can see that it has successfully run it. I can then look at the logs to see that it did successfully run it. It produced the file we were expecting. I can go to outputs to see that file it produced and view it as well. It gives you this whole experience that just makes it much easier to manage all of these different cron jobs. Now, something that's a bit frustrating with a cron job is if your machine goes offline and it misses a bunch of scheduled jobs, then it's quite annoying to go and recover those. Whereas with Kestra, by default, it will automatically run those jobs that it was supposed to. But you can also manually do it with backfill here. So here I can specify I want everything to run between yesterday and today, and then I can tell it to execute. And here we can see that it's going to execute everything that happened 2 days ago inside of the UI. And as we can see here, it's making up for all of those missed executions. On top of that, you can have multiple schedules. So in this scenario, I have this set to run every day. But let's say I set this schedule to now run every day at 10 a.m. I can in fact now create this schedule again. So now I've got two schedules that are going to run the same task at two different times. So now I can go to triggers and I can see that both of these are set to run at different times. So it makes it really easy to be able to have multiple different cron expressions at the same time. Kestra does also make it easy by providing a few more readable cron expressions, so you can put daily or hourly in here. So if you want to be able to just run it hourly, in here we can see the next one will run at 5 o'clock, which is the next hour. Now, if this this does fail, we'll be able to see if the execution fails quite easily by looking at executions. We can filter that by failed so we can see which ones did fail. But we can also set up some alerting too. So I have a separate workflow here that is called Failure Alert Slack, and it's got a separate trigger that's going to look for any failed workflows. And if they are failed, it will send me a nice little notification inside of Slack so I can easily know that there's a problem with my cron job. So super useful without having to set that up for every single job. Now I can take those cron expressions even further again by using this conditions property. Now this is really useful because it allows you to be able to specify very unique use cases where you only want it to run on a certain day of the week or maybe certain time of the month. So in this scenario, I'm using the condition that day, week, in month condition that allows the condition to allows events on weekdays relative to the current month. And we have a bunch of different conditions to go along with that. So this makes it really easy for being able to specify very specific scenarios where you might want it to run sometimes, but not other times. For example, not on public holidays, maybe, you only want it to run on weekends without having to make complex cron expressions. Not only does that make it a little bit easier to read, but it also allows for some complex configuration that might not be possible with a cron expression. So hopefully this shows you some of the benefits that you can get from using an orchestrator to run your cron jobs over just using a cron tab inside of your terminal. There are a bunch of extra benefits here that make it much easier for you and maybe others to be able to manage multiple jobs and see those statuses at the same time. Let me know in the comments below how you're going to use Kestra to run your cron jobs, and don't forget to join our Slack community where you can discuss with us further. Make sure to give us a star on GitHub.